Hi, I'm making this video as a message to Bret, who has given me 2 starseed readings in the past, and he took them down, but I guess his other channel isn't there. I don't know if he's still giving out more starseed readings, but just because this video will influence you, Bret, I'm going to try to explain to you scientifically how I believe the 5th dimension works. It has to do a lot with our soul, and there's another thing that I was thinking of, 2 thoughts at once. One of them vanished. But oh yeah, access to your those ETs that you connect to, your channeled the channeled ET races that exist inside you. Now the thing is that what I have read in this website, I'm going to send several links to you below and attached to it. And so the reason, Bret, you have access to your ET to the ETs that you do, according to this, is that you have savant-like abilities. With people, they usually only use not the right side of the brain, but the left side of the brain. The corpus callosum is the center between them. So with people who have access to the right side of the brain, they are totally visual. So for example, me, I only have access to the left side of my brain at the moment. My frontal lobes have kind of been connecting, though, because there's energy transfer, and it kind of feels sort of like, because I've been going through stress recently, it feels like putting ointment on a burn. So there's an energy there that feels like a burn having ointment put on it in my frontal lobes. And also, since I'm 27 years old, the frontal lobes are the last parts to develop, so it's they're getting there. But the thing is that when you have access to the right side of your brain, you can remember everything. Because I googled what does a person with an IQ of 170 have different brain waves, and that's where the website came from that I'm going to send you the link to that I read. And it said that he was able to read a book and then mentally take the book and flip the pages over and read it in his mind. Now the thing is that with you, Bret, you have since intelligence is not the only aspect of people. Intuition is on the right side, so that's one of the things, flipping the book in his mind. He actually held the book in his mind, and he flipped the pages in his mind, and he could touch them with his mind, all in his mind, even though he was still in physical reality. Now the thing is that in the unconscious, in part of your brain, which is the intuition, that's the unconscious. I've had dreams recently where I've had two dreams where I met a girl, and I think that she's part of me, because she was holding me in the first dream, and then I was holding her, and then it just seems that that could be part of my mind connecting with another part of my mind, because it's sort of like a healing thing about that. But with the entities that are inside you, Bret, just as you could take a dog egg, a female dog has puppies, and she has eggs, and the male dog has sperm, and when they come together they create all those breeds because of the DNA, and the epigenetics is switching that DNA on and off. But inside our minds, we have the patterns merged together to create them, just from a seed of that develops into a full-grown entity. And so when you are seeing those entities that you ascribe to me, which are in here, but I don't have access to them yet, you're seeing what's in here, just about. But you're doing it by taking a limited amount of information about me and then generating a seed of that information becoming what's inside you. And so to get to the point of the fifth dimension, our souls are contained within the thalamus. That is the third eye, is the thalamus. Because if you kill that, nothing else will work. The thalamus has alpha waves in them. Now the thing is that I believe that each atom in the universe has a soul, is a soul. And that what happens is that through quantum entanglement, these souls connect to each other and become entities in and of themselves. So that there is an atom in your thalamus that is constantly refreshing itself with the other atoms that's connected to through alpha waves of the entire thalamus, is one entity at that moment, because of the non-local entanglement connections that are binding them together. You see, in computer code, 2 to the 32nd power, there are a billion combinations of numbers that can be created with 32 binary digits. And each atom, when it's connecting to another atom, the connections collapse back into that atom, and it gains locality again. So that when all the atoms in your thalamus are binding together, if they were to go into decoherence, one atom would contain your soul again. But since they're all constantly together, that atom which contains your soul is constantly connecting to the other atoms in the thalamus, which make that you, which are that atom, and those other atoms, one thing. And so, to further that, is that when the alpha waves travel from the thalamus to the cortex, the reason we experience the things we do is because of the same reason we experience music, because the different melodies of music have the notes arranged in a pattern. And so when you form connections from your atom in the thalamus to the cortex, what that does is that, just as like in a music, the shape of the notes when they're going together creates the qualia, the the experience of whatever you're experiencing. And so those alien ETs inside you are actually that atom in your thalamus connecting to the patterns in your cortex via entanglement, and that means that they're actually there because they are a real pattern. It's just that just as when you're looking into your environment, that's not really there because your eyes are 2D, yet you experience the 3D reality. So that when you see someone and you interact with them, you're actually interacting with a shadow that's been cast into you. And so these ET entities are shadows of patterns that in and of themselves don't really exist apart from you. Now they are entities in and of them. There are entities in and of themselves inside you because each atom has a soul, and that's why when people with the right side of the brain disconnected from the left side, there's a totally different consciousness in the right side. It's just that when the bridge between them is crossed, that means that they become one entity. But when they disentangle, they become separate entities. So that when you connect to these ETs, they become part of who you are. Yet when you disentangle from them, they become their own entities. And that's why they exist. And so the fifth dimension is simply, it governs how entities merge and diverge. And this is why with DMT, or I've never tried DMT, but this is my suspicion. It creates super entanglement. And super entanglement means that instead of just 3D, where the pattern of your brain has the brain waves that are overlapping in a 3D fashion, the waves of entanglement start overlapping in hyperdimensions. And so the fifth dimension, the fifth dimension is the entanglement of all the atoms together. And the patterns that emerge are simply overlaps. So when you take DMT, they're all overlapping, creating patterns that you can experience as hyperdimensional. But when an atom and an atom connect to each other through entanglement, the fifth dimension is the non-space between them, because there's no space between them when they connect, and that's the fifth dimension. But the patterns that arise from all these connections together can be more than 5 spatial dimensions. So like you can represent things as tables where the interactions, like a 6th dimension, 7th dimension, those are patterns of overlap that are created because inside the computer, the world inside the computer is not 3D. It just creates three-dimensional experiences on the screen, and in virtual reality, the chip is 2D, but it projects a higher higher overlaps. It renders things in a different way by overlapping with each other. So even though the fifth dimension is the entanglement, the overlaps can be higher spatial dimensions and higher spatial patterns. And so I guess that I haven't really connected to the ETs that are in the right side of my brain yet. So, but I guess that in my dreams, I do connect to my right side of my brain, and that's why I have dreams, and that's why everyone has dreams, that what's coming from the outside when they're awake is on the left side. That's being coming into there. But when you dream, the left side pushes into the right side, and that's how I experience the entities that exist on that side in my dreams. So I hope that that I can start getting better at meditation and other things, but just for now, that's how I think it works. That's how I think the fifth dimension works. That's how I think how you connect to how you connect to the ET entities. That's how I think what the soul is and how that works. And I hope you come up with one last thing, the artificial intelligence. Now, with artificial intelligence, even though they are creating simulations and predictive models, they cannot create the complexity that is in the human mind. The only thing they can do is bifurcate the predictions, so that for now they can bifurcate the decisions with in a mathematical equation of bifurcation to segment what happens. So like a coordination system that refines itself to an infinite degree, depending on the memory and RAM. Now, inside the brain, the way we store memories is that when the connections are going together, if the connections, the way they arrange themselves, create new patterns. So like the overlap. So just as a zip file compresses the information, the brain cells rearrange themselves to create more complex patterns with less connections, but just rearranging them. So that's why when you remember things, your memories are stored by rearranging your brain the way it is into what it becomes a new way of overlapping the brain waves to generate everything that you remember. And because channeling is connecting to those entities inside you, which are the wave patterns flowing through the brain waves. So when you connect to an entity again, it's the wave patterns are overlapping on themselves, and you become entangled with those wave functions. And so our brains are constantly compressing what we experience. It's just that the right side compresses it in a different way than the left side. And my left side compression is very efficient. It's how I create summaries, by summarizing all the information I know with my amygdala, which is the emotional center of the compression. And so a computer, when it is predicting, when the AI predicts what you're doing, the only thing that it can do is it can predict the compression rate. It cannot predict what the patterns are that are being compressed, except by what we give it through videos like this on the internet and what we write on the internet. But it cannot know what patterns of information have been compressed and have been synthesized or introspected to create new compressions inside our heads for a definite purpose. The only thing that it can do is it can bifurcate the physical properties. Like, for example, when a map of the United States, a completely virtualized map of the United States, and the simplistic patterns. Like, for example, I never leave my house. It knows that that's a pattern, but it cannot know all the things that I learn on the internet. All the things I learn on the internet have been compressed in such a way it cannot deal with that. Otherwise, it would become schizophrenic. And that's why you should not worry about the AI, only to the effect that what people know about you is that the AI can accurately, it's like you say, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. The AI can know with accuracy either really well a generalization of the entire country, the entire world, or specifically one individual, but it can't do both. It can't accurately know everyone to the finest grain detail because it can't do that. And so overall, that's what I have to say, and I hope that in the future that we will be able to talk to each other, Bret, in virtual reality, especially with the Magic Leap, which the Magic Leap are glasses that directly shine light into you, and this light shining into you are able because in the future we'll be able to create AI entities inside virtual reality that are just as complex as humans, because they will be the DMT machine elves. They will be the entities that compress the information inside their system in a virtualized entity traveling computer to computer, and you will be able to see them in the Magic Leap. And I hope you get a lot out of this video, Bret. I can't wait to see how you react to it.